Guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, I wanted to sell my old car but ES wants my new car. So, ED and ES steal it. Backstory. I have to go back a bit for that. In April 2018 it was the last day we had freezing temperatures and heavy snow. On that day on my way home from work I had an accident with my 2006 Ford Focus. I crashed into a driver in front of me because I underestimated the frozen road. Don't worry, neither me, nor the driver I crashed into were harmed in any way. His car had a scratch in the back bumper, while my car's front bumper broke at the side. Police were called, we exchanged information and that was the end of it. So I had to bring my car to the mechanic again and I had enough of it. I owned the car for almost 2 years and had to make several repairs already. So I thought whatever and try to get a new car. I brought my Focus to a friend of mine, who made a little extra by repairing cars. A coworker of mine gave me a ride to work until I had a new car. I paid my share for the gas. Now to the present. Around a month ago I found a new car, finally. A car dealer had a deal where they would sell cars with daily admission for €10,000 less than the original price. After a short time thinking and some dealing with my bank account manager, I'm now the owner of an 2018 Ford Focus Street Line Sport Edition, completely black except for the roof and the top half of the side mirrors, which were red. The car is great, and when I bought it he only had around 15 miles. Sorry for the long backstory, onto the actual encounter. After I bought the new car, I put my old Focus up for sale on an app called Auto Scout 24, where everyone can sell their cars for how much they want for it, of course depending on age, miles, etc. Most of the damages were fixed. Me and my SO cleaned it inside and outside, but I knew I wouldn't get much for it. So, I put the base price at €350 with the option to bargaining. In my first post I told you that I live in the old town of my home city. So in order to not occupy parking spaces and to avoid parking tickets, I parked my car at my grandma's place in the driveway. Her house is on the countryside, so it won't bother anyone and I could take good pictures for the ad. 2 days ago while I was at work I got a call from an unknown number. The guy left a message that he wanted to take a look at the car. I called him back, told him where the car was and that we could meet there after my shift was finished. He agreed. After I'm done with my shift I drove immediately to my grandma's place to wait for him. Cast. ED. Entitled Dad. ES. Entitled Son, around 17 to 18, me. Master of Disaster, GM, Grandma. Me and ED agreed on meeting 15:30. I was there early, parked next to my old Focus, went inside to tell my grandma I sell that car today and checked if everything was still alright. ED and ES arrive half an hour later than agreed, explaining the place was hard to find. I shrug it off because I could tell they weren't from around here. So me and ED take a look around the car. I explain everything to him, fix damages, etc. And he asks me about how many miles, etc. The usual stuff. While I talk with ED I notice that ES wasn't paying any attention. The car was supposed for ES according to ED. ES rather likes to take a look at my new Focus instead. ES. Damn, that's a nice ride. Me. Thanks. ES. Can I take a ride? Now I'm very picky if it's about my new car, but who wouldn't? And by the way, I had a feeling he didn't had his driver's license for very long. Me. Sorry, not happening, I just got the car a few weeks ago. ED. Come on, let the boy have a little fun. Me. Sorry, still not happening, and by the way we were talking about my 2006 Focus, not my new one. ES. But I like this car. ED. You heard him, he likes this one, so how about you sell us this one instead? Me. Yeah, right, and how much would you pay me anyway? ED. Well, the ad said €350. Me. Yes, for the 2006 Ford Focus. ED. Fine, I give you €3,000 for the new one. Me. Are you serious? I paid €30,000 for that car. €30,000 was the original price, but with the deal I got it for €20,000. ED. Well, you drove the car for a while and that's a price drop. Me. Sorry, this is leading nowhere, we are done. I turned to my car, pulled a key out of my pockets and just wanted to go home. ES. Dad, I want the car. ED grabs me by the arm. You heard him, hand over the keys. Now I'm a little heavy build, but I'm still strong enough to fight if I have to. Me. I said no, and I would recommend you let me go now. While my eyes were staring at ED, ES snatched the keys from my hand, unlocked the car and jumped in. I immediately freed myself from ED and ran to the driver's door of my car. The little bastard locked the door so I couldn't get inside. So I did the only thing I could and stood behind my car to prevent him from leaving. He could only back out of the driveway. Me. Tell your kid to get out of the car before I call the police. In the commotion, my grandma came outside. GM. What's going on? Me. Grandma, go inside and call the police, they try to steal my. I couldn't finish my sentence because ED shoved me aside so ES could drive away. Well, he surprised me. I hit the ground hard and they drove off in my car, while leaving their car behind. I immediately grabbed my phone and called the police. As I mentioned in the backstory, my new Focus was completely black except for the roof and the top of the side mirrors, which were red, which means that car stood out among the most which are around our home city. It took the police 10 minutes to arrive. One of the officers took my and my grandma's statement while the other one radioed his colleagues from the neighboring towns the description and license plate of my car. About an hour later, ED and ES came back to the house with my car. The two policemen jumped them at sight, pulled them out of the car and cuffed them. ED tried to talk him and his son out of the situation by telling the police they only did a test drive. The police had none of their BS and escorted them away. They asked me if I wanted to press charges and I agreed. More importantly, I checked my car for damages. It had around 20 miles more than before and I found ash and cigarette buns in my backseat. I still have to wait for a court date and if possible, I keep you updated. Edit. Their car was later picked up by the wife of ED, who told me she is sorry for their behavior. Little update. I have an appointment with my lawyer this Thursday. I keep you updated. Little update number 2. Sorry for not replying sooner. I'm going to court next week on Wednesday and depending on how it turns out it either will be another update or a new post. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Update 3. Sorry for the late update. Now I've been with my lawyer, and we are going to court. I finally got a letter from the court and they have set the date for mid-September. If something happens I will post the story, but if nothing special happens I will post another update here. Final update. Sorry for the late update. I had to take care of something family related, and had no time to post. This is an update from my last post where ED, entitled Dad, and ES, entitled Son, tried to steal my car. We had the court date on the 16th of September at 10 a.m. There isn't much to tell, because I forwarded all the evidence to my lawyer, pictures of the damages, screenshots of my ad, including in confirmation email from Autoscout24 which said my ad is up and the testimonies from my grandma and her neighbors who witnessed it. ED and ES were charged with 2 years of prison for attempted theft and I have to pay 8,000 euros in damages. Sorry, nothing too crazy happened. I'm just glad it's over and I get to restore my car to before this happened. The next story is titled, I Have Enough Friends. This happened over 20 years ago, so I might not get every detail perfect. My mother is a very kind-hearted person and always felt it was important to have a polite if not good relationship with your neighbors. A new family moved into the house across the street from ours. They would even be attending the same church as we did. On Monday, my mother decided to bring a cute potted plant with a little card saying, "Welcome to the neighborhood from family name." I walked over with her. The mother of the household whipped open the front door as we knocked. I'm sure she had watched us from her window. My mother said hello and introduced herself and me. She then handed the woman the potted plant and card saying, "Welcome." The woman, making a face like she smelled sewage, shouted, "I have enough friends," while snatching the plant and card before slamming the door in our faces. My mother sighed and we went back home. Sunday rolled up. We headed to church. Guess who was introduced into the woman's group? The neighbor was horribly embarrassed. Apparently, she only associates with people within her religion. She had thought we were heathens. My mother made it a point to never ever associate with that woman. Of course everyone in the church and neighborhood asked why, as my mother's so friendly and welcoming with everyone. My mother, reluctantly, told them about how neighbors didn't need any new friends. The neighbors never did make any new friends in or out of church either. They eventually moved, but that woman unintentionally made her and her family pariahs the entire time they lived there. The next story is titled, HOA moved in on my uncle. About 25 years ago my aunt, uncle moved into a new construction single-family home neighborhood on a half-acre. About 6 months after they moved in he was informed that his neighborhood was being taken over by an HOA. He disregarded his HOA application as he did not wish to join. Not long after this, random neighbors began complaining to him directly about his boat and cars in his driveway violating HOA rules. He just informed the often rude people that he was not a member. They would argue with him that everyone was a member. One of the major issues is that his driveway, garage, and front yard was on the main level of his home and the backyard dropped down a cliff to level with his basement and backyard. So he had no way to back his boat around the side of the home into the backyard. Eventually, the HOA began harassing him with threats if he didn't move his boat to the backyard. His backyard had been closed off by a vinyl fence the HOA installed and lined another road back there. So one day my uncle decided to compromise by trying to take down a section of his back fence so he could make a gate for boat parking access. The HOA called the police on him for destruction of property. The police left my uncle with a warning if the fence was returned to proper condition by the end of the day. Uncle put the fence back up and placed his boat back in his front driveway. Now the fines started coming. Week after week, month after month. When the fines reached $10,000 the HOA filed a lawsuit against him. He countersued for the harassment and street access to his backyard. In court the HOA showed the HOA boundary and showed my uncle's house was in the middle of the HOA, explained the violations, and the police report filed over the back fence. My uncle explained that he never signed up for the HOA, moved into the neighborhood before the HOA existed, never gave them permission to fence in his backyard, provided all mortgage documentation, and a blank HOA application with the HOA's security stamp and date. The HOA argued that it didn't matter if he didn't turn in his application because he was within the HOA borders. The judge declared my uncle's property was grandfathered as private property and not part of the HOA. The HOA was to immediately take down their illegal fence on the back border of my uncle's lot. Since the HOA had fined my uncle $10,000 plus in illegal fines, my uncle was owed $10,000 plus in damages for the harassment. My uncle rebuilt his yard fence in see-through chain link with a gate where he parks all his toys in full view. He moved the boat from the driveway to his front lawn, let the lawn die and paved it over, all 10 feet from his front door to the sidewalk. HOA neighbors in the decades since still approach him to complain and he just tells them to take a walk knowing there is nothing they can do to him. The next story is titled, Lying and Using People? I Got You. This one needs background to fully understand why I went out of my way for this revenge. My best friend was married for 10 years. With his ex for a total of 13 years. He was absolutely head over heels in love with her like I had never seen before. Which I never understood due to her alcohol abuse. She would take it out on him, and when he'd be venting about it, he'd always fall back on, "It's not her, it's the illness," a very respectable and admirable stance on it. Last year she asked for a divorce because after years of what I would call abuse, he had simply run out of gas. Her reasoning for asking for one? When she got fired for testing positive for weed, he wasn't empathetic enough. He admits he wasn't because it had come on the back of one of her drunken tirades where she told him he was a piece of shit who was always trying to control her. When all he ever tried to get her away from was booze for the way she treated him when she was drunk. It took him forever to move on from this, with the divorce following shortly after. And earlier this year, after thinking he was moving on, he calls me to come over and he's in a bad way. I arrive and he is absolutely fall down level of drunk. Going on that she didn't ask for a divorce for those reasons, that she had really been cheating with several other people. The next morning when he's more coherent, I ask him how he knew. He was cleaning out the spare room and selling, donating stuff he didn't need anymore, and when he went to clear an old tablet, she was still logged on and all of the evidence was there. He gets that out and says he's going back to bed and asks me to lock up when I leave. Before I left, I looked at the tablet. After seeing what I saw, I wanted to find a way to get even with the horrible and conniving woman, so I took pictures of it all and left. When I got home I started looking up information about these people. 2 of them were just normal guys. Whether they knew she was married or not I don't know. But the third? Well, the third comes up as a registered sex offender. Still on probation for being such a disgusting pile of shit, an address listed as 123 Lane, City, State. Chomo knew that she was married. I immediately knew what I was gonna do. Chomo didn't live at 123 Lane. Chomo was living with the conniving ex. She made regular posts about their time together. On top of that, she is an avid weed user, and has several firearms because she enjoys sport shooting. So I go into the state's sex offender site, and make a report of Chomo not actually living where he's registered, and that Chomo is living in a home with what he has no right to, being a convicted felon and on parole. I include screenshots of the social media posts and all to back it up. I was thinking little would happen but an inconvenience to their lives. Boy was I wrong. She broke her typical posts with nothing serious trend on social media yesterday. With this gem, my year can't get any worse. Chomo lost his job, and I am now facing eviction because I can't afford my rent. So, I go on the state court system site to see if it's related. And yes, it was. Chomo was rearrested. She clearly can't post bail or Chomo would be out. The job she took after being fired definitely can't support her lifestyle. So he's probably going back to prison or at least jail, and she's a breath away from being homeless. I don't know if I'd ever tell my best friend I was the one behind this. But he is definitely ecstatic to see a horrible woman and sewer rat get what they deserve. Part of me wants to put up the sex offender registration link and that it's sitting in jail and say something to the effect of, it's a little more than losing a job. But not wanting to make my best friend's life harder, I'll just let sleeping dog lie. The last story is titled, Ex-Girlfriend Stole My Car Because Her Car Was Impounded. I, 27 male, at the time was dating this girl for about 6 months. We met at the mall in my city while I was looking for a gift for Mother's Day. She had a car that she got from an auction, which ran great but didn't have a working air conditioning and had body damage. She worked odd jobs because she was a high school dropout. Well, I once let her use my car, which works better than hers did, because we went to a party and she was the designated driver. We got dinner that night and that's when she said, I really love your car. It has AC. Keep in mind we were in the middle of a hot summer. I know that's why I bought it, I said, being oblivious to her intentions. After we finished our dinner I sobered up and took her home. I thought it was weird that she said that out of the blue. Every time she would go somewhere she would ask to use my car. I wouldn't get it back until late night or she would return it filled with trash. I once found a condom wrapper. From then on, I forbade her from using my car. After we broke up, due to her cheating and her drug problem, I woke up the next morning to find my car gone. I immediately called the cops and filed a report. My neighbor from across the street had a surveillance camera that luckily captured the incident. It turns out my ex stole my car along with her mom. It didn't take long to find them. Her excuse was her car was impounded. The reason, because she parked by a fire hydrant, had expired tags and they thought it was abandoned. I'm glad she's doing time and I never have to see her again. Thank you for listening.